So talking with Brad on SMSFs, and this subject of estate planning and SMSFs is an important one. What sort of tips, if any, would you recommend people consider as they're setting up, structuring, providing death benefits essentially out of their super funds? What sort of tips would you recommend people consider?
I think one of the big myths and one of the issues that I see a lot is a lot of clients don't realise that super doesn't form part of their estate automatically. So they don't realise that if something happens to them, money should just go to my estate, it's all fine. Unless you specifically direct your super to your estate, then it doesn't go there. So then it's left up to the surviving trustees in your self-managed super fund, or it's left up to the executors. And that's where we see a lot of cases where people fight over money. Kids, relatives will fight over relatively small amounts of super. So making sure that from an estate planning perspective, making sure documentation's actually been done, and even speaking to an estate planning lawyer that's actually across, if in an SMSF world, across the SMSF requirements, because some deeds are very particular on how you've got to present that document to the surviving trustees. And we've seen in the last 20 or 30 years, when there's a lot of money moving from that next generation, that people will fight over it. And if things are not done correctly, it can be quite consequential when people go to court, and the only ones that we know win are lawyers, where they'll just charge and the estate becomes smaller from that perspective.
Taking actual funds out, not only due to death ultimately, but lump sums, reversionary pensions. Do you want to touch on that? How do they work?
So from a reversionary pension perspective, essentially what that is where we've got clients that instead of the benefits transferring to their spouse, essentially the spouse will take over that pension that's already in existence. There's some tax benefits of having that where from a transfer balance cap reporting perspective, that'll stay in that, doesn't count towards their transfer balance cap for a further 12 months. So many of the clients we see, they might have, say, $3 million in super. If one of them was to pass away, potentially for 12 months, that surviving spouse can still maintain that $3 million in pension phase rather than having that money have to come out. So it does allow, from a perspective, to ensure that the super fund can stay longer and ensure that it has that tax benefit of 0% in pension phase.
Yep. Another one there where you might have, say, one member left in a fund, mum or dad has passed away, significant benefits. There might have been some large contributions over the year that have been untaxed, that have gone in as basically non-deductible or non-concessional contributions. And there's adult children, and obviously there's some significant assets sitting there from an estate planning point of view. Is there an obvious tip there that one could consider, so far as getting the maximum estate passing on to the children?
So I suppose when you've got adult children, we've got two components in member balances. We've got the taxed element and the tax-free element. At the way that it currently sits with the legislation, taxed element, if it goes to adult children or a non-financial dependent, we're looking at paying 15% plus Medicare levy. We're essentially 17% on that amount, on the taxable component, but on the tax-free portion, there is no tax to adult beneficiaries. So we do see a lot of financial advisors and clients doing recontribution strategies or setting up specific pensions that may then be paid out to a specific adult beneficiary to minimise the tax impact to the estate and ensure that it's passed on to the next generation.
Yeah. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. I think obviously come and speak to us is probably the first strong suggestion, or as you're certainly setting them up, making sure we're considering these factors. So yeah, appreciate your thoughts there, Brad.